We're in a series called Ruth, Part 5. What an exciting series it has been. Even men like it. Wow. Awesome. Awesome. And today we're going to talk about a topic called Marry Me. Marry Me. And it's not a guy saying to a woman, marry me. It's a woman saying to a man, marry me. 3,000 years ago, they were already doing it. We're still catching up. In our culture, it's not normal to say for a girl, hey, marry me. Right? Some girls do it, but that's an exception. I mean, it's not wrong. It's not a sin. But it's just culturally unacceptable. And I bet every girl wants a guy to, go down on his knee. But Ruth is proposing to Boaz in today's story. Okay? Let me just tell you my story a little bit of my proposal. It was great. Believe me. In the fall of 1999, I'm dating this beautiful girl from Minneapolis, and I take every opportunity I can to go visit her. I live here, I work here, but every weekend that I have, I want to go see her. And one date, we've been dating for a while, I don't know, maybe 6 months, maybe? Yeah. My dates are different than hers. But we're dating, and she comes to me with a little complaint. She says, Alex, my mom is asking. My mom is asking. You know where that's going. She's like, where is this going? You guys are hanging out. You guys are spending every weekend together. What is it? Where is this going? And she's like, well, she says she won't let me date you. If your intentions are just to date, she won't let me date you. She wants to know where it's going. So I got the hint. And so now I tell her, you made me marry me. Anyway, you made me. No. But I got the hint, and I was in love with this amazing woman. And I believe she's a gift of God to me. And so I went home. And I had a plan. At that time, I worked on cars. I was younger, and I was, 20 years old, right? 20-something, yeah. I was 20 years old, 21, and I purchased this beautiful car. It was a luxury car, but it was hit on the side. So this person, whoever was driving this car before, he slammed into somebody's side. Or he maybe turned into them. So the whole side of this luxury V8, leather seats, sunroof, everything. Navy blue, beautiful color with gray trim. It was just beautiful. Chrome rims with golden sign on it. It was just beautiful car. I won't tell you what the car is. It doesn't matter, but it was nice. And so I'm working on this car, and parts are almost impossible to find because it's new. And the dealer wants like $1,000 for a fender. I'm like, I'm not paying $1,000 for a fender. Come on. So I'm calling every junkyard. This was in 99. I'm calling every junkyard in the country to find parts, cheaper parts. And I'm trying, and I have a plan. As soon as I fix this car, I'm going to propose to this girl because her mom won't let me date her if I don't. And so I spent a lot of money on this car. I didn't have enough money for the ring, but I got some money, and today she's still wearing that right now, and it's still good, but it's not as good as it could have been if it was today. But I spent all my money on the car. Sorry. And I promised to get her a new ring, and I just haven't got to it. I'm digging a hole. And so finally I fixed this car. I had this guy painted. It's beautiful. It's luxury, and I'm 20 years old and driving this car. I got to tell you what this car is because it's a Lexus LS 400. At that time, it was like 2 years old only. Okay, really nice car. And so I wash it. I detail it. I clean it. I use that spray for your leather seats where it smells new. It's just, I clean it out and I go and see her. We go for dinner, and I kind of make a hint to her, hey, it's going to be awesome weekend. I got something to talk to you about. It's very important. She kind of, I think she's getting it, what's happening, but she's acting like, what are you going to do? What are you going to say? And So we go eat. Applebee's were our thing. So we go to Applebee's. Like, we don't go to Applebee's now a lot, but I think at that time that's all we could afford. And so we go to Applebee's, we eat, and she has this beautiful spot. You know, in Minneapolis, there's a lot of lakes. And these lakes have docks. And these lakes have not just docks, but the geese and ducks and things like that too. And she has this beautiful place, kind of like this. This is not it, but... And she says that's her favorite place to go and think about me. No, she didn't say that, but I made that up. But I wish she did. And so when we don't have nothing to do, we go on that dock and we just hang out there, put our feet in the water, splash each other. I don't know what. I knew, but what we do. And so finally, I have this. Yeah, we hold hands, and. Right on the edge up there. And finally, I have a plan. On Friday night, I think, I'm going to propose. And, once I make a plan, I kind of want to, it's a plan. I don't make many plans, but when I do, it has to be done. It's like it did today. Now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, maybe, next day or something. But so we get to this park, beautiful park. We stand and it starts pouring rain. Just clouds, darkness. I mean, just pouring rain. And I'm like, what do I do? And she's pushing me. So what do you want to tell me? What do you want to tell me? And I'm sitting. So I get out of the car in the rain. I open her door, grab her hand, and we go on this dock. And I get down on one knee and I propose. And she says, no, it didn't happen like that. It was cold and rainy, so I didn't get down on my knee. I messed up. But I did pull out a ring, and in the car, by her favorite dock, I proposed, and I said, would you marry me? And she said, yes, and that's how the story goes. But listen, I am not the only guy who kind of messed up my proposal, because I believe I would have done it differently for today. She's like, do it again. That's the song. Sometimes marriage proposals goes wrong. Let me give you one. One man put an engagement ring in a milkshake. His girlfriend loved milkshakes. So before he could say anything, she drank it. She swallowed the ring, and they had to wait a couple of days for the ring to emerge. They had to clean it, and then he put it on her finger. It was an itty Anyway, proposal. Another man, he had a genius idea. He tied a ring to a balloon that was made in a heart-shaped balloon. He met his girl in a park, and he gave her the balloon. As she's holding a balloon, he kneels down, and she gets so excited about this proposal, she starts yelling and releases the balloon. And the ring flies away. Maybe that one wasn't meant to be. And then another dude, true story, he slashes his girlfriend's tire so he can act like he's, going to be changing it. I'm like, dude, you at least could have put a pencil in there and took the air out, right? That would be smarter. But no, he slashes her tire so he can be this guy. And then once he's on the knees, changing a tire, he pulls the ring and proposes. Amazingly enough, she said yes. Perhaps out of fear. Do you remember your proposal? Or maybe you have never proposed yet, guys. Come on. Let's do it. In today's story, we see a woman proposing to a man, and it's weird. Like, you think my proposal was bad? This is really bad. Open our Bibles, please, to Ruth Chapter 3, verse 1. Let's read this together. One day, Naomi, who's Naomi? She's the old, bitter mother-in-law. Said to Ruth, who's Ruth? She's a Moabite who married Naomi's son. Naomi's son died, but she decided to be loyal to Naomi. Ruth moved from her country of Moab to Bethlehem, Israel. Now they're really poor. They're living in a tent probably. Ruth goes into fields and picks up leftovers after they, collect the grain and things like that, and barley. But this is the end of the season. That's it. This is the last day. They have collected all the harvest, and that's where the story picks up. One day Naomi said to Ruth, "My daughter, it's time that I found a permanent home for you, so that you will be provided for." Boaz is a close relative. She goes to the field of Boaz, and he's a relative. Close relatives of ours. And he's been very kind by letting you gather grain with his young women. Tonight, he will be winnowing barley at the threshing floor. Now do as I tell you. Watch her advice. I don't know about this advice. Moms, dads, if you have daughters, don't give them this advice. Do as I tell you. Take a bath. Well, that's good. Give them this one. Put on perfume. Do your nails. Do your hair. Do your makeup. Dress in your nicest clothes. Then go to the threshing floor. But don't let Boaz see you until he has finished eating and drinking. He's going to get drunk. He's going to drink beer. He's going to drink wine. Be sure to notice where he lies down. So creep on him. Okay, make sure you stalk him. Make sure but don't let him see you. So behind a tree somewhere. Or a rock. Be sure to notice where he lies down. Then go and uncover his feet and lie down there. He will tell you what to do. What? Hold on. Go back. No, not so quick. Go back. Be sure to notice where he lies down. Then go and uncover his feet. Lie down there. What? Uncover his feet while he's drunk. The dude is drunk. Single. And lie down there. Now, I'm sure Naomi cared for Ruth. And Ruth was a foreigner. So she, I don't know what's going on. I don't know your cultures here in Israel. But I guess if that's what you do, I'm going to do that. So Ruth goes there. I will surely do everything you say, Ruth replied. So she went down to the threshing floor that night and followed the instructions of her mother-in-law. Followed the instructions. Naomi cared for Ruth. So she says, dress up nicely. What does that mean? Men are visual. For the last 3 months, Ruth has been going to the field of Boaz. They've been flirting together. But Boaz is an honorable, just man. And so he calls her his daughter. So the mother-in-law says, hey, you got to dress up. Sounds like a seduction plan. Sounds like a plan to seduce a man. He's going to get drunk. He's going to sleep. And what drunk man could refuse? A beautiful young woman. A dead one would refuse. Because most men would be like, whoa, is that my... Not me, of course, honey, but those other men. Those other bad men. Saved myself there. There's going to be a party. Last day of the harvest. They're going to gather all the grain and they're going to celebrate. Especially if you know the history, there was famine for 10 years in Israel. Imagine if we had bad economy, like in 2008, right? We had the downturn. People were losing jobs. People were losing houses. A lot of our friends who live in Florida, they lost houses because they bought when the houses was super high. And now they couldn't pay for their houses. So many of them lived years without paying for their home. Because there were so many foreclosures, bank couldn't handle them. So some people just kept living in these houses they couldn't pay for. And finally, God visits Bethlehem, and Bethlehem gets rain. It rains in Bethlehem, and finally, they plow their fields. They seed the fields, and now they've collected the fields. Kind of like would be like a Christmas party, or kind of like after bad economy, your company just like tripled or quadrupled its growth, and it was a new year and everybody got together, and you know people are going to drink. You know people are going to celebrate. Naomi, the mother-in-law, knows that. So she says to her, daughter-in-law Ruth, when he gets drunk, lay down there at his feet. Guys, imagine if your wife said, our daughter needs to get married, and I have a plan. I'd be like, woman, you lost your mind. You lost your marbles. We're not doing it. Right? What kind of plan is this? Go down to the threshing floor. What is a threshing floor? Well, usually the threshing floor was on top of the mountain where there would be a lot of wind. And so what they would do, they would collect the grain, they would put it on this flat ground, and they would beat it with things to make sure to separate the grain. And then they would take special forks and throw the grain up into the air, and the wind would take the chaff. And the good grain would fall down to the ground, and then they would make a pile. Now, in those days, people probably didn't get paid with gold or silver, so Boaz had men and women, young men and women working for him, and they would get a percentage. So they would party, celebrate, and they would spend the night protecting the grain, because everybody had a stake in this harvest. Now, most of those people lived in Bethlehem, but their fields were not in Bethlehem. They were in the country somewhere. And after 10 years of downturn, an economy downturn, guess what? People are desperate, and desperate people would do desperate things. So thieves were just looking, who is not sleeping around their grain? So that's the story. You see what's happening here? And you know they're going to be drinking because it's a happy occasion. I grew up till I was 12 years old in Ukraine, but Ukraine was a part of Soviet Russia. And now it's not. It's an independent country. But then, Russia, Soviet Union took over and just tried to kind of copy, I think, United States with 50 states. We had 15 states. Okay, and but those states were different countries, actually. Not like in the United States, everybody speaks English, but in that country, like everybody was Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Ukraine, Belarus, like a whole bunch of countries. Anyway, but they would pay employees, because it was a communism, they would pay you once a month. Okay, and so men would come to work and they would work hard, but then after they get paid, you won't see them at work for 3 days to a week. Why? When blue-collar guys get paid, where do you find them? In the bars, in the restaurants. And so they get drunk, they get high, they eat as much as they can. They don't see their wives. But guess who else comes to those bars? Women. What kind of women? The kind of women that want to get a piece of your paycheck, honey. Right? You see that here too. You see this in our country too. Guys get paid. I had one of my employees a while back come to me and say, Pastor, listen, I did something really bad. I gambled all my money away. I'm like, what? What about your bills? And he was telling me before that he needed to pay bills. And he was like, man, I messed up. I'm sleeping in the couch, And if we're going to do another event next summer, we got to do this gambling thing. I just heard of another man who told me that he had a settlement of a $90,000 come to him. And in a couple of months, he lost it all through gambling. Imagine how that affects his family. He's living in a car now. Gambling is another big one. So what I'm trying to say is, imagine that picture. They get paid. They drink. Maybe threshing floor was not the best place to meet a man at that time. Because men are going to be thinking not how they should think. They're going to be drunk. But her mother-in-law says, go to him when he is drunk. It's like saying, honey, wait till he goes camping. Wait till he drinks a whole bunch of beers, like 12-pack or more, And when he gets into his sleeping bag, right? When he's drunk like a skunk and he's in a sleeping bag, go unzip his sleeping bag and crawl in there and see what happens. See what happens. Is that what it says? He will tell you what to do, right? That's what she says. And he will tell you what to do. He's a single guy. Now, if he was married, it would be different. But he's a single dude. Rich, drunk, single. And so a lot of people who don't believe in the Bible, those who look for an excuse for fornication, who see sex everywhere, they say, well, see, uncovering his feet means uncovering his private parts. And so they're like, yeah, they're having fornication and Bible is okay with that. No. That's not what it means. Let's put the next verse. We're gonna show you something. So she went down to the threshing floor that night and followed the instruction of her mother-in-law. After Boaz has finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, he lay down at the far end of the pile of the grain. Why far end? To protect his investments. Far end. Nobody wanted to be there, but he went there to protect. But they're laying all around this pile. I don't know how big this pile is. At the far end of the pile of the grain and went to sleep. Then Ruth came quietly and covered his feet and laid down. Around midnight, Boaz suddenly woke up and turned over. He was surprised to find a woman laying at his feet. Whoa, what's going on here? Who are you? He asked. I'm your servant Ruth, she replied. Spread the corner of your covering over me. So they're not covered under blankets yet. She uncovered his feet. Why? Because when men get cold, or have you ever uncovered your feet when you're sleeping in the middle of the night? What happens? You're like, what's going on? I got to cover my feet. She wanted him to wake up. It was like a big plan of Naomi. I'm your servant Ruth, she replied. Spread the corner of your covering over me, for you are my family redeemer. The Lord bless you, and we'll stop there. We'll stop there for a second. We'll come back to it. So she goes in, and she uncovers his feet, but she does not sleep with him. She does not climb on him and sleep him, take advantage of a drunk man. She just lays there next to his feet. Sleep by his feet tonight. That's the song. Some people want to say she slept with him. No, she didn't. Because uncovering his feet really meant uncover his feet. It was a symbolic thing. Really what she was saying when he woke up, marry me. Marry me. You remember Moses was on top of the mountain and he met God at the burning bush. When God spoke to him, he said, Moses, Moses, take off your shoes. For the place where you're standing is holy ground. So uncovering your feet doesn't mean taking your underwear off. It means uncovering your feet. Otherwise, God would say to Moses, 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 take your underwear. That would be weird. That's not our faith. That's some other perversion out there. So obviously, it really means what it means. It was a tradition in that culture that servant would lay at his master's feet. It was a sign of submission. It was a sign of humility. Guys, so really what she's doing is, she's saying, she's not coming with an attitude, you're my redeemer, you need to marry me. What's taking you so long? We've been flirting for 3 months. I'm taking you in. That's not what she's saying. She uncovered his feet because it was a tradition, and she laid there because it was a custom. She was saying, I'm your servant. And if you want to, you don't have to, but you could marry me. So basically, she proposes to him. Now, the covering thing, covering somebody, in a Jewish tradition, at the Jewish weddings even, for a long time, they would take, the man would take his garment, it would cover his wife, which would mean I will provide for you, and I will protect you. It was a symbolic thing. In Ezekiel, let's read this, 16:8. Ezekiel 16:8. I want to show you something. God uses the same language. And when I passed by again, I saw that you were old enough to love. So I wrapped my cloak around you to cover your nakedness and declared my marriage vows. I made a covenant with you, says the sovereign Lord, and you became mine. God is talking to Israel. Notice they use that covering thing. Jesus even later uses that. Let's open that Matthew, next scripture. Matthew 23:37 says this, O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills prophets and stones God's messengers. How often I wanted to gather you, your children together as a hen protects her chicks beneath her wings. That means protection. That means provision. So what she's saying, she's not saying sleep with me here. She's not saying sleep with me. She is saying cover me, protect me, be my husband if you choose to. A woman proposes to a guy, to a man. And like I said, in our culture, it's not popular. And I don't know if it was popular in that culture, but she did it. So obviously, if the guy is not proposing, hey, what are ladies supposed to do? He's flirting, but he's not pulling the trigger. Come on, man. Propose already. Now, another question I have. Why wait till he's drunk? Why wait till he's drunk? What kind of advice is that? I thought about it all week. Jade, I really did. Why wait till? And here's maybe my crooked mind, let's say, that came up with this, but here's what I came up. If he says no, right? If he says, no, I'm not going to marry you. Are you kidding me? No, I'm not going to marry you. If he says no, then you could kind of blame it on, oh, he was drunk. So let's say next morning he gets up, he said no to her, rejected her, and he comes and brags to his buddies, listen, that Moabite Ruth came to me and said, marry me. I said no. They'd be like, dude, you're drunk. You were so drunk. And they were all, another reason I know why they didn't sleep together, Ruth and Boaz, because they all protected the perimeter of the grain pile. And in Israel, if a man would sleep with a woman who he's not married to, he could be stoned to death according to the law. Plus, there was other people, and Boaz is honorable. He says, I would love to marry you, but I can't because there's somebody else who can marry you first. He got the first, opportunity. But he's got dibs, I guess. That doesn't sound right, but he will. So he didn't sleep with her. So don't use scripture for an excuse. Well, Bible allows it. No, Bible says flee sexual immorality. That's what Bible says. Okay, and I think the reason this story made it into the Bible because it has the spirit of the Bible. Let's keep reading what happens. Oh, I love seeing verse, 10. Here's another reason I know they didn't sleep together. Because he says, the Lord bless you, my daughter. You don't say to a woman, my daughter, after you sleep with her. No, this is pure. The Lord bless you, my daughter, Boaz exclaimed. So he blesses her. He prays for her. And it's weird because he calls her his daughter. She just made a proposal. I understand. No, won't go there. Won't go. You are showing even more family loyalty than you did before. So he blesses her and then he says, you're showing loyalty. For you have not gone after a younger man, whether rich or poor. What does that mean? He wakes up and he tells her that. Well, she's not a Israelite. She's a foreigner living in Israel. Her husband died. According to her tradition, she could marry anybody she wants. And she's going after an old guy who's probably not even good looking, ladies. No, honestly. He's surprised she's going after him. Doesn't it seem like that? Oh, the Lord bless you, daughter. I think he's like, oh, bless the Lord. You want to marry me? I'm old. He's 40 plus, maybe 45 plus. She's 25, maybe. Maybe. So I think he's shocked. He's exclaiming like, oh, bless the Lord. I thought about it, but I never thought you could go for a guy like me. You're showing even more family loyalty. But now he says this. Thank you for being so loyal. To who? To her dead husband. In Israel, if an oldest son died and he didn't have a son, oldest family member died, didn't have a son, his younger brother had to marry his widow. And the son that would be born would not be his son, the younger brother's. It would be a son to finish the generation. Bible was huge into generations in the Old Testament. Why? Why is Bible recording? There's like whole chapters in the Bible about this man gave birth to this child. And this child gave, and there was lineages. Why? Because Jesus Christ could not just come and be born into any tribe or any state. He had to be born into tribe of Judah. And he had to come out of David's lineage. You see that? Notice now Jews don't know what tribe they belong to. And now we can keep better records. 3,000 years ago, it was hard to keep records. It had to be all done by memory. And so he says, you're showing more loyalty to your family than you did before. For you have not gone after young men, whether rich or poor. You're beautiful, you're young, you could have had any man. That's what he's saying. You could have had any man. And obviously I could tell that Boaz maybe is not a good looking guy. He's not like, anyway. Now don't worry about a thing, my daughter. Again with this daughter thing. Come on, man. She just proposed to you. I will do what is necessary. For everyone knows in town, knows you are a virtuous woman. Proverbs chapter 31 talks about a virtuous woman. That's where it appears. You are a virtuous woman. So she's not an easy woman. She's not the one who'll sleep with anybody. One of those Moabites. That's what they do. No, she's the one who trusted the Lord. She's the one who gave her life to God. And now she's living according to His commandments. And now, although she's not a Jew, she's a Moabite. She's known in the Jewish community as a virtue. That's real conversion. Guys, that's real conversion. A lot of us, we want to be saved and then we want to live how we used to live. And notice Ruth changes. She's a virtuous woman. She's a loyal woman. She's an honorable woman. And that's who Boaz is. And two honorable people can marry each other. Because it would be hard for an honorable person to marry a dishonorable person. They would always see things differently. Two liars get together, maybe they'll make it. But if a liar and a truth person gets together, they will have problems. You see what I'm going with this? Boaz was honorable. Here's what he could have done, and I'm almost done. Here's what Boaz could have done. A woman is laying next to him. He could be like, baby, let's do this, baby. Right? He could have made excuses, guys, right? He could have said this. You're poor. I'm rich. It might not work. You are a Moabite, foreigner. I am Jewish. You are young. I am old. I don't know if this is going to work. You know how people say, let's try it. I have this nice house in Bethlehem, like the best real estate. And we could try. Notice he doesn't do that. He says, we're going to do this right. Okay, tomorrow, he says, I'm going to go and ask the guy who has first dibs on you. Bad wording. And if he says he wants to marry you, I will marry you. I still can't believe you proposed to me. I still can't believe that a person like you. Now, my last point. It was an unusual proposal. Wouldn't you agree? Would there be a better, like, mom, if a daughter comes to mother or father, Mom, Dad, how do I propose? Don't tell them to do it how Ruth Chapter 3 says. Like, don't tell them to go there. No. See, some Bible verses are descriptive. All they do is describe what happened. Some Bible verses are prescriptive. They tell you what to actually do. See, I think Peter says rightly dividing the word. You can't just take every verse and say, I'm going to follow it, because there's a verse that says Judah went and hung himself. We don't confess that verse. We're not going to obey that verse. It's a descriptive verse. And there's prescriptive verses where Bible tells us, okay, love your neighbor, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. And so this proposal was descriptive. It's not something I would want my daughter. If a guy is in horizontal position, I want my daughter to stay away from him. My daughter's right? This is not something you would do. But I can't tell you today if this if they could have done it differently. I think being human beings, sinful, we make mistakes. But here's what I know, that God is working in His providence behind the scenes, arranging everything for your good, for my good. Here's what happens. Ruth does, next week we'll go there, marry Boaz. They have a son named Obed. And what a blessing he is. He has a grandson who is King David. And in the line of David comes Jesus Christ. And so when you think, God, where's miracles? I want to see miracles. I want to see fish multiply. I want to see demons come out. And a lot of times what we don't see is that God is working behind the scenes. God is making sure that everything aligns. If it wasn't for Pastor Tanya, if I didn't marry her, I wouldn't be here. I almost married the wrong person. I don't know what came over me. When we broke up and she wanted to get back together, and I said no. And I was like, you have your crushes when you're a teenager. She's my crush. And I'm still thinking, where did I get the courage to say no to her? But if I did, I wouldn't be here today. I said to Pastor Anthony, same thing. If you and Crystal didn't marry, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't even be in this city, Pastor Anthony. Same with Pastor Van. If he didn't marry Rocky, he wouldn't be here. So God was working. God is working in your life. And the thing about providence of God, the sucky part about it is you don't see it. You only see it looking back. You don't know why you're in this church. Why am I here? You don't know why you're in this city. What am I doing in this? 10 months a year, freezing. 4 months, it's decent. What am I doing in this city, God? If it was my choice, my wife says South Carolina, I say Florida somewhere, but God has a plan. God is working, and we don't see it, but He is at work. Just trust Him. Trust Him today. And just the same God was faithful to Ruth, Naomi, Boaz. He's the same God who's faithful to us.
Thanks for tuning in to New Life Sermon Series Online. If you're blessed by these messages and are interested in helping spread the Word of God to others, make an investment today. You can give at newlifechurchsf.org. If you have a story or a testimony to share, let us know on our website as well. We hope you have a blessed day and enjoy today's message by Pastor Alex.